Thank you very much, Mr. Roisi. Next segment is the international organizations, and I'd like to call upon Mr. Achim Steiner, the Administrator of the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP. Mr. Steiner.
Thank you, President, Excellencies, Co-Chairs. It is a great honor and pleasure to address you briefly here this morning and to echo, as we have as a co-organizing partner, our deep commitment and also enthusiasm for TICAD 7 having broadened the lens and the spectrum of conversations around the future of development, of investment, and the central role of business. In our own work as the Development Programme of the United Nations, we have in recent years intensified our own engagement with Japan's business community through the Japan Business Federation and the Association of Corporate Executives. And indeed we do so for two reasons, which many of you will be familiar with, that very often the development of markets, of business, and the kind of business that can emerge is both a product of entrepreneurship, of the ability to bring in new ideas and take them to market, but also of public policy, because markets very often are shaped by public policy in a positive or in a negative sense. For us, the discussion at TICAD 7 is a most welcome one, also because Japan, interestingly enough, presented a statistic this morning that I think speaks to a reality also that many underestimate in Africa. 99.7% of the 3.5 million registered businesses, as we have heard, are actually small, medium-scale enterprises in Japan's economy. And often the conversation about the private sector in Africa is conducted in the international arena as if it is a nascent private sector that is virtually non-existent. And yet the fact of the matter is that much of Africa's population actually is engaged in private sector. It may be the small farming operation, it may be the corner shop, it may be the repair shop, or it could be the startup that we see today. Understanding this as part of the business landscape is also an important part of the equation. And I want to salute all the leaders who have spoken this morning from the African continent here in the business community, because they truly have changed the conversation about the future of development on the continent. As our commitment and part of the TICAD work here, we are also this week launching a tripartite partnership that the State Minister from METI already alluded to, which involves JICA on the one hand, the Japan External Trade Organization under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, and UNDP as a multilateral platform. We are committing ourselves to working together in the spirit of TICAD 7 to facilitate the kinds of partnerships that you have spoken about this morning. And we do so with a very clear conscience, or rather sense of purpose, that relates to the fact that business is an opportunity, but business in the context of development is a broader agenda. Smart public policy clearly is a critical part of what UNDP has been contributing as a partner to many of the countries represented here for possibly 40 to 50 years. But what is critical and what is also part of the sustainable development agenda of our time is that business is part of also allowing a different kind of development future to emerge. Energy can be clean or it can be dirty. The financial sector can be inclusive or exclusive. President Ramaphosa, I have followed with great interest recently the national insurance, health insurance bill that you have promulgated, and the extraordinary impact this will have on both health care in South Africa, where the principle is that it should be the degree of treatment you need rather than your wealth that determines how you are able to access treatment. But it also creates enormous new opportunities in the health insurance sector, and we have heard about some of the latest developments from some of you. But it is the financial market, the health sector, the energy sector. In all of these, the role of business has become far more central and far more of a driver. Our collective objective, whether in a partnership, for instance in the context of TICAD, of Japan and African economies, or in the context of national development priorities, must certainly be to achieve a business environment that is conducive, but also a business that contributes to the development objectives of nations and not simply views Africa as a market in a purely commercial sense. And this I want to end with by referring to my dear friend and colleague Tony Elumelu, because he alluded to the vital role that business can also play in investing in the future of, for example, youth. These are the kinds of partnerships that I think will drive that business and development agenda to very different heights in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.